everyone. Today we got to play Empire's End. Now, this is sad. You start out with a complete civilization and it slowly goes into decline. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell because board games are amazing and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana.
And we're filming on Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day.
Yay! I'm wearing my Mother Zelda shirt. I got 3 kiddos.
Yeah, and happy Mother's Day to all of you out there who have children.
Alright, so tell us more about Empire's End.
Alright, so this is a 2023 release. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.1 and a Board Game Geek rank of 2565. 2 to 4 player game. Average length of 45 to 60 minutes. Age 10 and up. That's probably about right. It's a pretty simple game once you learn the mechanics. Design is by John D. Clair. Art is by Kwanchai Moriah. Published by Brotherwise Games. The retail version of this has an MSRP of $39.95. And this is the deluxe Kickstarter. I'm not sure exactly how much it was. Oh, it was all in for $70. That's what it was. And I've got a note down there. So yes, $70 for all of this with the playmats and everything. The retail version is Tabletop Merchant has it for $26.99. Game Nerds has it for $27.97, but it's out of stock. And then Card House has it at $28.99. So Tabletop Merchant has it the cheapest by $2, it appears.
Alright, so moving on to quality of components. I thought they were pretty cool.
Yeah, the cardboard for all the cardboard is replaced with these little wooden screen printed tokens.
Yeah, and this cool flame. I like the cool flame.
Actually, it's probably more of a heat transfer. It looks like it's a sticker that got heat transferred on.
Yeah. Then you got a flame. You have these cardboard tiles, which then you actually have the disasters, which are a card. They are linen finish.
They have 2 different sizes. You have the disasters, and you have these like battles.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is adequate. I think it's nice. I like the player mat and the player board. I think I'm going to give this a 7.5. I think everything's pretty good.
Yeah, also the storage. I like the little compartments. You can put all your personal pieces into it and have everything stored individually. There's also a central storage for any pieces that you might have excess. So I think this works really well. And the playmats, they tend to curl because they're rolled up pretty tightly, but I think if you play it a lot, you won't have that problem. You can reverse roll it, and that helps a lot too. It didn't pose that big of a problem because you're basically using it to put all your tiles on, and they take up a good chunk. They don't fall. They're not narrow where they could tip or fall. So it works pretty well. The bigger issue, I guess, is the central board. This is not a playmat. This is actually a board, and it's a 3-fold, so it tends to bow up, and that's where you do have little bits like your scoring markers. So that can be problematic, but it lays okay. It's not perfect, but it bows a bit, but not too bad. I think probably, given the components, I think 7.5 is a fair score.
Okay, so moving on to the theme. Theme is that your empire is dying. All these disasters are occurring, and can you keep up with those disasters? And hopefully, maybe your empire will not end. I think the gameplay is interesting. Like it makes sense. Like disasters are happening, and you're trying to combat
Lots
that.
of them.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. All right, so I think they do really well here. I think that the art is pretty good. I love the stylization of it. Thematically, I think. Honestly, it's a very interesting theme. A lot of times you're building, this is something a little bit different, you're trying to fend off the disasters. So for that, I actually kind of liked it. I'm probably going to give this a 7.5 to 8 as well on theme, because it's unique and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I've never seen a game where it plays kind of the reverse of building. So you've got, but you get advantages. So when destruction happens, you can take advantage of those things too. So it's a matter of controlling where the destruction occurs and taking the best advantage of it because it breeds growth. So I think that was an interesting concept to this I've never seen in a game before. So for that, I think it's going to get some bonus points. As far as the art, it's very, the art that's there is very pretty. It's just very limited on how much art there is. The tiles have art on them.
Yeah, well, the screens are really beautiful.
The screens do. There's icons pretty much all down the central board, and then your
but the background, there's a little bit of art. I will say this looks a little bit different art style. That one was that was the only one that's kind of stood out to me. I don't know why that was.
Yeah, so I think probably 7.5 is fair for this as far as theme as well. I think the art is, it's pretty good, and the iconography is simple enough to understand, and it's a unique idea. So yeah, I'm right with you.
All right, so moving on to the actual rule book.
So the rule book is 20 pages long and has a cover that matches the box. It's not a huge box, so the rule book is fairly small as well. It's really clear. It's the way it's set up. I like the crispness of it. It's a component list and does show pictures of everything. It's got the setup. Once you get it initially set up and everything put into these, it's going to be a breeze to get this in, put it away, and get it out. Because everybody can just put their own stuff back in. Into their own storage.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. And then the central stuff goes back in here, and put it back in the box. It's going to be very easy to get in and out. The gameplay is broken out very clear in here. There was really no confusion. There was one thing we were calling Robert on, but I don't even remember what it was. To ask him a question, because Rob had played this a lot more than we had, and trying to understand something, but I don't recall what it was. But as we played on, I think we picked it up anyway. So the iconography, like I said, is really simple to understand. The different phases are broken out and clearly. I think this is an excellent rule book. I think they've done an outstanding job in putting all the breakdowns in here. They threw a few quotes in, which are, okay, they're fun to read. So yeah, I'm going to probably go ahead and give this rule book a 9, just because it's so quick to get you into the game, and it's not that complex of a game. It's probably a light to medium game, so it does a good job getting you in quickly.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. All right, so moving on to the actual gameplay. So the gameplay is you have some resources behind your screen. And at the beginning of the game, you have a civilization that's doing absolutely fantastic. It has all the things going on. So the first thing that's going to happen if I'm first player is I'm going to turn over the disaster. And so it turns out that there are earthquakes going on. But you know what? And it's going to destroy my level 1.
Well, somebody's level 1.
Someone's level 1. If I decide to take it, it will be me. But I have my high point 32 that takes 12 builds to do that. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put... Now, this would normally come behind from your screen. There's nothing behind my screen right now, so we're just doing this.
So the card has resources depicted on it that you have to contribute those specific resources, or you can use money, which is a wild resource. Yeah. So basically, you either put one in or you pass, put one in to pass. Or else you take everything. You take the resources that have accumulated and the disaster. So if you take the disaster, you destroy that location, but the disasters have a benefit at the bottom, which you're going to apply to one of your other buildings for free. So you get to build that tile for free, which is a pro. So it's really about maximizing the benefit versus the pain point of destroying. You're eventually going to have something get destroyed. There's just so many disasters happening. You don't have much choice around it. So I might, well, at the beginning, we're all going to have the same distribution, but if this were later in the game, there's potential to have tiles move about. So mine may not be worth 32 points. I may have a much less valued one there. In this case, I have 25 on mine, but I'll say I won't pay it. I'm going to take it. So I get the resources that have accumulated. I have to play this. I have to flip my one that's in my first spot over, and I lose the ability of that space, that tile, completely until I rebuild it. And then this can be placed under a different card.
That is active.
That is active, so this one's destroyed, so I can't
and
put
you
it there.
have to do all like level ones for like you have each active building has to have an innovation before you can make a second row of innovation. Right. But if something's not active, it doesn't count, so just kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, that was our question. That's what it was. If one becomes reactivated, do we have to go back and backfill that one since it doesn't have them a number and we just assumed we did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then that occurs, then we go on to an income phase, which basically you trigger all your green spaces. And then more disasters come, and then you can trigger your brown, which brown allows you to apply innovations that you've had because you have a deck of innovations in your hand that you will then get to play. And then there's also a military. So depending on how much military is on your board and that you've saved up through gathering resources, you are going to get attacked, and hopefully you come out on top because you get more resources if you do, and more victory points as well.
And if you lose, you may still get some victory points for it, but you're going to have to suffer the penalty of moving 2 tiles around.
Which really isn't that big of a deal.
In general, it's not. It can be, but it's usually not.
No, yeah. Overall, what are your thoughts about the game?
Well, that piece of it I thought was the biggest weakness in the game. The fact that the tile swapping being a penalty seems like it should penalize you harder than what it does. The fact that there are ones that rely on you having tiles next to them to trigger to clear off the exhaustion that's on them. So like some of them only have a one-time use, and then you have to activate them to clear them off. But you would have to have a tile next to it that clears it. So that's the only case we saw where being adjacent was a bad thing. Because it's not like there's a certain probability that certain numbers are going to come up more frequently in the disasters, it didn't seem. So, yeah, I just didn't understand why that was such a huge penalty. You would think that would cost you more than just, okay, I lost the battle, so therefore I'm going to have to shift 2 tiles around.
Yeah, considering how disastrous this game is.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking on the score front?
Well, I enjoy the concept. I like the actual strategies of it. Trying to figure out, okay, if this one is going to cost me several hammers to build, like 5 hammers, but it's only worth 6 victory points or 8 victory points if I don't build it back. And sometimes you might have an innovation attached to it that you get stuff for destroying it, which I thought that was pretty clever too. And then there's in-game cards that you can attach that you definitely want to keep those buildings active. So there's basically a balancing act of destroying the things that you don't care about, keeping the things you do, and trying to maximize your points. So I like that concept. It's new, and you don't see new often in it anymore. You see, people taking elements of other games and borrowing them. This one's felt fresh. That said, there's not a lot to the game. But it is a quick game to get it out and get played. So given the fact of the timing of it, I'm probably going to give this an 8.
Okay. I am very different than Randy.
And Robert.
Because I am a builder at heart, and I'd like hope at the end of the game. It's one of the reasons why I don't like Cthulhu, is because at the end, you're going to go insane. It's just a matter of how long you can stave it off.
Some of us feel like it might be insane to begin with.
I mean, maybe. So for me, the lack of hope and ability to alter your fate, I don't like. It's not. Here's the thing. It is new. It is different. There's nothing wrong with the gameplay. I think Randy and Robert have valid points of view on it. I just got to say that this one isn't for me. The constant destroying, and there's no ability. You do not have the ability to rebuild everything that gets destroyed. If there was a glimmer of hope, like if I do it just right, I can get my buildings back, I would be way more apt to enjoy this game. But for me, like if you do the count, there's just no way. And for that, it's not a bad game. It's just not for me. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 to 7. with the caveat that it's probably a me problem and not a game problem.
Yeah, I think there possibly is a way with more players. With 2 players, I don't think there's enough tokens out there to do it.
Yeah, but with more players, you end up with more disasters. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's true. But if you get enough hammers, you can build back your buildings, and then if you have enough resources left, you can neutralize taking any of those penalties.
Yeah, but the income, like the amount of income you're getting, there's no way that it can offset the amount you're losing throughout the course of the turn.
Yeah, it would have to be the perfect storm to counter the perfect storm, I guess.
Yeah, and that's just for me. That's just not.
Yeah.
It's for me. That's not fun. So I think, although the theme is very interesting, it is not for me. And again, I don't think it's the game's fault. I think it's Miranda's. Miranda just doesn't like this kind of game. So keep that in mind. If this does sound interesting for you, I think you should check it out.
Yeah.
It's not. Gameplay, it's not a bad game. It makes sense for a lot of people. It just doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah, I mean, for the weight of the game and the speed of the game, I think this is a very clever design, and I really appreciated it not being a brain burner, something that I can get out, but yet it still felt like there was going to be enough meat that this would keep me enthralled for multiple games. So I think this is one that I will like to play more, but I won't get to because she won't like it.
You can play with other people, just not me. Alright guys, well thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, and hopefully you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.